How about a little Jimmy Morrison?
From Erie's own Government Access, Channel 9, from the City Hall Council Chambers, it's time once again for the Taxpayers Hotline Show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host.
Hi, it's City Controller Kaz Kwiatkowski, my good friend.
Hi, I'm John Steiner with Mecca and the Perry 200.
Well, we're back.
Yeah, we were off last week.
Yeah, I had a very important meeting, and it came up, and there was no way I could make it back here. And I wish there was a better way of notifying people.
Right.
I thought the meeting would be done, but it was highly important. It really was.
Well, you got to handle the city's business when it comes time.
Well, yeah, they tried to. I tried to get a hold of you, but you were tied up too. But
right. Well,
yeah, we're ready to go. So we're here this week, and I think pretty sure I'll be here next week again.
Right. Well, we might have a special guest today, if he makes his way in here, but we'll have to see. He got kind of tied up. Right. At the last minute.
Well, we just got back from a very interesting
press conference and some announcements in this community, which is going to be very good.
Yeah, when you look at we're talking about the Erie Insurance Project.
Right. They made some major announcements this afternoon at 1 o'clock, and a lot of you will be hearing about it on the news tonight. So, but
I really think
we'll touch base on it first.
I think the best news of all of it was, even though the ramp is going up and that's visible and the other things, I think that the use of the armory is,
right.
Not tearing it down and
right.
What I call another wedge in Parade Street.
Right.
The continual one block at a time upgrading of Parade Street.
Right. Well, why don't we'll touch on it after this call.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I have a couple of problems I'd like to address.
Sure.
Go ahead, we're waiting.
Okay, the first one is, I assume that you've gone over 38th Street.
Yes, I have.
And you see where Valhalla is doing all that work.
Right.
For the life of me, I cannot understand why they would put a wheelchair ramp when there's a corner no more than 40 feet away.
You're talking about where, for instance, where my street intersects?
By Briggs, in that area.
And they got one where my street dead ends at 38th Street?
And the whole thing here, I understand they had a decree from the federal government to get these ADAs up to standard. But where were the inspectors, where were the engineers from the federal government, from the state, and from the city when they approved all these? Now, not even a year and a half, Valhalla is doing the complete work from McClellan all the way up to, looks like it's going to be all the way up to Old French Road.
Well, he's starting to come back now. He's heading east again.
He was on the north side, now he's on the south side.
Right, and he's moving pretty quick.
He's doing an excellent job, and he's digging down around the sewer drains and all that. But the whole thing is, who is responsible for the first initial installment of that?
When did they do that? That was a number of years ago, wasn't it?
No more than 3.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Alexandrovich, he was on there. Alexandrovich, Mr. Alex, as I want to call him, he was on council a couple years ago. And in fact, he addressed the situation, even with the business owner there on East Avenue, on both sides of the street where the water was collected.
Right. But I don't think they ever did the ones at the foot of my street in a long time.
No, but now they're coming all the way and they're redoing the whole shot all the way up to McClellan on the south side of the street, and they're going over all these other ones.
But I don't think did you have one at the end of your street before?
Yes.
Was that's got to be more than 3 years old, wasn't it?
No, because I screamed like a banshee up there on 41st Street where the water was collecting so high it was like a river going across the street to the other one. Yet above me there, before you get to off of Fargo and Page, there's a city lot there. They're not putting any in there.
Where's that at?
Well, 42nd and Page and Hoyt.
Okay.
There's a triangular lot that the city owns.
Yeah, you're right. Now, 38th Street, though, John, did you
Pardon?
At the end of your road on 38th.
They had one. That was flooding over too.
How old was that though? That was only 3 years old?
About that.
I got to check on that.
And it's on both sides of the street.
'Cause
You can see where they've chalked it out. And you know what's irritating? Up by Mercyhurst and all that, they're putting in almost whole sidewalks
Yep.
and building retaining walls.
Right.
But I don't know. All I like to know is who's footing that bill. Is the taxpayer footing that bill?
One way or the other we are.
That's true.
Most of the projects that were court ordered, we've had to, it's coming out of us, you know.
Yes,
Now you see-
that's problem number 2.
Now you see what they're doing up on Peach Street, that's all state work.
That's all state work, and they're all getting new sidewalks in and the whole shot. But here's the thing. Who's going to take the snow off them sidewalks?
Oh, that'll probably be Mercyhurst.
I know he's talking about up in Mill Creek.
Oh,
No, I'm talking about in the city, too.
Well, it's always been the job of the property owners.
well, they'll have students.
And then, that ordinance on the books, you might as well throw it out.
Absolutely. I've said that before.
And the whole shot.
You got poor Mark, he got in trouble for
Trying to do the things right, and he was only addressing the business people.
well, he allowed the press to
And then
take advantage of a situation where that's not what he intended.
Now, and the press twisted it all around.
Well, I remember back in 2009, one of the reasons when I first came on the show when Jimmy Thompson was on here, I had started a free shoveling program for senior citizens.
I remember that.
For about 150 senior citizens we had in the city. And what happens is to a lot of these houses, if they're close to the streets and the plows come by and they throw the snow up onto the sidewalk, what happens is in a lot of the cases it freezes. And once it freezes, there is no shoveling. I mean, I had a group of different kids throughout the city where I ran into that problem. Now, is that the problem on every house? No. But on the streets where they're close to the sidewalks, it's very difficult to...
Well, sure, you get those big chunks up there and everything else. I used to keep a monstrous lot cleared up at where I worked, and you don't have to drive that fast. They're driving that fast because they're looking somewhere to throw the snow.
I know we had to cut off the limit. I had over like 300, 400 calls in between there of different senior citizens and different handicapped people that needed their walk shoveled because they were physically unable to do it. So we had to cut it down to 150. And as it turned out, that year was like the third snowiest winter of all time. And it was a serious undertaking. And once that snow gets on that sidewalk and it starts icing over, forget it.
That's true. I used to do my whole block and half the street with my snowblower.
Right. So for us to, hold people, that ordinance, I mean, it's kind of tough to hold that ordinance.
That's true. But the whole thing here is the plow drivers got to use a little common sense too. I know they got to move it.
Right. Well, if they don't get them done, they get yelled at, and if they put them, no matter, they're in a no-win situation up there.
But we don't see the plows in these hills till late or 2 or 3 days later.
I thought the hills were the first place that they did.
No, it's not. It's the last place they do other than main thoroughfares.
Well, right, they would do those first, and then the hills.
But that will be up and coming. But I have another observance. I was getting down on the Bayfront Highway this morning, and down around Raspberry or Cranberry, I guess where there are a couple of pedestrians that have been hit, they have one of those little green turtles out in the middle saying yield to pedestrians. Can you believe that?
They got a green turtle in the road?
It's like a little triangle piece in the road. It says yield to pedestrians.
Oh, the yellow sign.
It's a green sign
Oh, I think I seen fluorescent green, right?
in the middle of the highway.
Yeah.
I mean, here's these vehicles coming 35, 40, 50 miles an hour, and the darn thing isn't over 3 feet tall.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I forget what the speed limit is there. I don't think it's 50.
35.
Huh?
35.
Right. So that's what the police will counter you with.
Yeah, but it's no good. You can hardly see it. They should have something there that's
Should be taller.
illuminated and blinking.
It should be taller, yes.
And there's no crosswalks painted there.
No, you're right there.
So, and as I was coming along the bayfront, lo and behold, across from the boat terminal down there, there's these advertising signs on the south bank.
Yep.
I mean, that sure is a wonderful walkway.
I thought we had an ordinance against it, but I guess we don't.
No, money talks and something walks.
Yes, it does.
One other quick thing. I don't want to tie up too much time. Ernie's hot dog stand down there on State Street.
Yeah, you don't like him?
Does he have a permit?
Yes, he does.
Sure.
He paying for the parking meter.
Yes, he's got a permit with the city to habitat there, and he feeds the meter.
Still utilizing a parking meter.
He feeds the meter.
He feeds the meter.
Yep, I know Ernie personally.
Okay.
In fact, I'll give you a little plug. It's some of the best hot dogs in town.
The best hot dog in town comes from John's place.
Smith, he's got Smith's hot dogs. I'll tell you what though, here's a guy that he pays the meter. He has to pay us for the privilege of being there,
Yep.
and then we kick him out when we have a special event.
That isn't right.
No, it isn't, but that's what happens to him. But
Because I know you're a one hot dog man or two hot dog man.
usually one. But hey, if I'm,
They put the chili beans on it and
He does.
sauerkraut and all the good stuff.
you'll be amazed. I mean,
All the fixings.
he sells them for $1.
That's cheap.
It is. I mean, I tell you what, there's a lot of people that utilize them, and he does pay, John, honest to God, because I watched him.
I knew if anyone would know, you would know. And his hot dog's got to be better than those ones in that Cleveland ballpark.
Oh yeah, but they don't got he doesn't have the mustard though.
No
They're
stadium.
hot dogs.
You gotta have stadium
Got to
mustard.
have the stadium mustard.
Stadium mustard. Actually, it's Bertman's Ballpark Mustard.
Is that what it
That's
is?
the official name. Stadium is a close knockoff.
But I see there's a halo over your head. You must be a happy camper today.
Who, me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm wishing for? That the Pirates and the Indians play in the World Series.
Never going to happen.
Huh?
Never going to happen.
You never know.
When the weather gets hot, they'll both fold. All right, have a great
I
day.
wonder, okay, Yankee fan, we'll see you.
Oh, I'm hurting.
Oh yeah, we know.
We got to get the boys back into action.
We don't want them back.
Hey, I'll tell you what, they're doing good, and they're showing that they don't need a $200 million lineup. These kids that are coming up from their farm teams are doing a super job. It's just that they've gone around the league now, and the pitchers are knowing how to handle it.
Right.
But they'll get wise with old age.
Yep.
Have a good one.
See ya.
I just wanted to say something. The other night, myself and my neighbors were sitting outside, and we witnessed a cat that ran into the street, and he got struck by a car, and it was pretty tragic. And we called down to the streets and explained, the second shift crew answered and explained the situation, and within 2 minutes, they were on the scene to remove the animal. And I just wanted to give them credit for being on the spot like they were, because it was the whole neighborhood was just sitting out there, and it was tragic. The kids were out there and they were all crying, but they did come and get it right away. He said he would be there in 2 minutes, and he literally was there in 2 minutes. So I just wanted to give them credit, because a lot of times they take a lot of heat up there.
They do get beat up.
Yeah, they're in a no-win situation up there, so. But when they do good, it's good to acknowledge what they do. So I just wanted to do that.
Yeah, you don't get that kind of reaction from the state.
No. I mean, he was right up there, and he was very polite, and my son and my wife were, they were upset, and some of the neighbors, but he was very professional. He came and got it, and so I just wanted to say that. But let's talk about some of these things that Erie Insurance would happen today.
Well, it was interesting, because I think,
Yeah.
I still say that stabilizing Parade Street in the Armory area was
Right.
significant.
Well, what they're doing with the Armory is there were some different suggestions that were being bandied around, and what they've decided on doing is turning it into office spaces. So I think they were saying like 150 offices are going to go in there. It's on the National Historic Register, that building, and as you know, Tom Hagen is very big into restoring buildings and different historical artifacts and stuff like that. So they're going to restore that building and put office spaces in there. And then they are building a 53,000, is that what, on that paper, is that what it says there?
I think it was like,
The Technical Learning Center.
it's a little bit shy of 53,000.
A little bit shy of 53,000 feet. That's going to be adjacent to their new parking ramp between French and Holland on 8th Street. They're going to do a lot of training in there, and they're going to have all their staff on site, so when they do their training and quality control and all the other things that they do at Erie Insurance, they're all going to be in one building. So that's their next project, and they're also with the Achievement Center, which was originally the C.F. Adams building. They are making that into some type of a historical place where they can display some of the Erie Insurance history and some of the other history of Erie County. And they're one organization that is really keeping this community together. Not only are they're purchasing the property, but most importantly, they're going to be paying taxes. Let's face it, we need people in the city that are paying taxes. Between their workforce, all the property that they're purchasing, all the development they're putting into the city, they're a breath of fresh air compared to what we're hearing from a lot of these other.
Oh, you're getting a lot of bad news, and
Well, it just seems like it's just always bad news. I mean, it's getting to a point where we need to hear some good news, and fortunately, Erie Insurance came through with some good news today. So they'll probably be adding more jobs on top of the jobs that they've already created for this community. So,
and as their business grows, so will hopefully the footprint in Erie.
well, what'll happen is eventually, they're over to Parade Street now, where the Armory is, and eventually they're going to have to expand even more. So I'm thinking, my guess would be over to eventually, maybe wishfully thinking, over to the Bayfront Highway. But I mean, that's far, that's several years down the road, and maybe up to 8th or 9th Street in the near future. But once expansion continues, I mean, the sky's the limit over there. And as we all know, Parade Street definitely needs to be revitalized.
And that's another, if you look at it, some time ago, it was 6th Street and below, they made an investment, the city did,
Right.
with some new road patterns and,
Well, I think it was Del Birch and Sue Moyer and all that group from the Bayfront Task Force.
so now you've solidified a key building down there.
Right, and they did a lot of that single family housing down there. That group down there, they've made strides in trying to bring that neighborhood back.
But the thing that's nice is if they go down there, they're not gonna let the criminal elements,
Right,
right.
because I mean, they're not going to want their employees having to deal with some of the, like you said, criminal activity that occurs between.
Which then hopefully helps, other things develop down there that
Right.
people feel a little safer, so.
Right. Well, hopefully they'll, it'll spur other businesses right around at the Armory, that would do business.
Yeah, maybe put a little restaurant in there, a little coffee shop.
Coffee shops, restaurants, maybe, insurance, other insurance folks that deal with Erie Insurance.
Go ahead, caller.
Hi, I have a handicap sticker, and I have the placard, and I have the sign in front of my house.
Mm-hmm.
But at times, there's people who don't live in the area, but they also have a handicap sticker. But I don't think it's fair that they can park there when I have a disability.
They should not be.
Well, I'm not preaching because I don't know the answer, but I will find out for her. I think if the one that's on the street is fair game.
Really?
Yes, I do. I think, and I'm not, ma'am, I don't know for sure, but I will find out for you.
I mean, if somebody has a personal handicap space set up for themselves, any handicapped person can park
See,
there?
it doesn't say by residents only, it just says handicap spot.
Oh,
And,
well, that doesn't make sense, kind of. I mean, why would somebody go through the trouble to have it issued?
I will find out though.
That's a
Are you
good
still there,
question.
ma'am?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I will, what I'll do, at the show's over, I'll try to get you an answer next week, but I thought I brought this up once, and I thought they said that if it's on the street, it's fair game.
Wow, that's surprising to me, because it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I called them and had them put it up, and I don't think that's fair.
You're absolutely right. I agree with you on that. But
I will check on that, but I may be wrong. I thought I asked that question one time.
do you know Kaz's number to call him later in the week to find out?
You can call me at 870-1349,
Okay.
and probably either late today or tomorrow, I should have an answer for you.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
I'm not really sure, but, you
Yeah,
know,
that doesn't make sense.
well,
I mean, I could understand at like the stadium or the civic center
Yeah.
or a public building, but on a residential street where somebody has taken the time to get the handicap spot there, you would think that it would just be,
it's very rare that happens. Well, if there's two people on a block, then you got a problem.
what they need to do, because each correct me if I'm wrong, but the handicap placards, they all have a number on the bottom of them. And
Here's the thing, though,
they
like-
should put them on the sign to correlate.
When I was a young man, we had our own neighborhood retribution team.
Right,
You know, you were told you don't park in front of
Right.
so-and-so's house, you know.
Yeah.
But that's out the window now.
I
People,
got an idea for you. Go ahead. Keep
go
going.
ahead.
Here's an idea to raise some money for the city. Tell me what you think about this. Okay. We were just talking like the handicap person or the handicap parking. Let's say, see, I live on considered a busy street in the city. Okay. And there's times when I come home from work or out, there's always people parked in front of my house. And I have to park like down the street or across the street, you know, which is inconvenient for me. And in the wintertime, when I come out, I shovel my car out.
I think I know what you're getting at, but
Okay.
go ahead.
I shovel my car out, and I come home, and somebody else is already parked in my newly shoveled spot. So I have to park down the street again in a pile of snow. Boy, I hate that.
I know what you're getting at, but go
I
ahead.
suggest that the city should charge. You could have a residential parking permit where you have a spot in front of your house and charge, say, $200 a year. $200 a year. And you have preferred parking in front of your house. And figure if you have 1,000 people at $200 a year, that's $200,000 revenue for the city. Now, you'd obviously have to pay people because you'd have more
Enforcement.
labor and overhead, you know, put the signs up. You could take yellow lines and go whoop, and put a sign saying, you know, residential parking. You could hire 2 people out of that $200,000 a year to do that. I think you would get at least 2,000 people in the city to do that, because it's an inconvenience, especially in the wintertime, when you move out of a parking spot that you've shoveled, somebody else pulls in there, and then the plows cannot get through there. Then this way, if that was your personal parking spot that you paid the city for, not only would you have a parking, but it would get plowed. As they drive through, they could swerve in and out, you know, if you live on a major street. If you get 2,000 people to do that, that's $200,000 worth of revenue. Of course, you have overhead, you have supplies, you have enforcement and salary. And if people are parked in your spot, they get towed, period. Because if it's marked and it says a residential park, because I know they do residential parking in some areas.
They do. There's at least
Right.
There's at least one,
They were doing that.
possibly two.
They were doing that down on East Front Street too, because Hammett people were parking down there.
It's in by St. Vincent.
Right, and if you don't have a residential parking permit, you're out of there. So if they enforced it, the city would make money off of it. Granted, like I said, there's a lot of overhead, but it's just 2,000 people alone. I mean, I think it would be a win-win situation, not only for the city, but for the residents of this community.
Well, we tried to get that for the Mercyhurst area.
Oh, for like parking like I just talked about?
I think there's a hesitancy on the part of the administration to do that. But I think, you know, judging by some neighborhoods I've lived in, I don't know if they could do it one at a time or it'd have to be a whole block. Because in Pittsburgh, they do a lot of that. In Pittsburgh, you have what they call it zones. Like, you know, one zone might be yellow zone, red zone, blue zone, and they're usually around institutions like colleges, dorms,
Right.
and
Do they do that for their own, in front of their houses, and their residential?
it's yeah, that's what it means actually. Like when my daughter went to, she went to Point Park, but because they had too many kids, she was staying at Carlow College, which is another girls' facility.
Right.
And in that neighborhood, because it was so tight, and the college didn't have a lot of parking,
Right.
you had to actually buy a permit to park there.
Right.
But it wasn't centered on your house, it was centered on an area.
Right.
So there was only so many permits for the area issued.
You know, what
So,
do
I mean-
what do you people feel? the idea that we're talking about, call us and let us know, do you guys think that was a good idea? Would some of you be willing to pay $200 a year to park in front of your house, to have it like we just discussed? Maybe we get some feedback from the people watching
When
today.
I was renting on 22nd Street, I had no driveway.
Right,
And I had Orlando Funeral Home at one end
right,
and the baseball team at Roosevelt on the other end.
right.
Many times there was no place to park.
I have a shared driveway, so,
You're even worse.
yeah.
Go ahead, caller.
Craziest idea I ever heard.
Why is that? Hello?
What, if that's John, he's got a driveway.
Was that John?
I think so. But he's got a driveway, though.
Yeah, he doesn't know what it's like to come home and have
Yeah,
to
it
park
would-
down the street.
it wouldn't harm me in my area. I mean, in my area, it would be probably a crazy idea.
Right. Well, I know, I'm thinking like, just the east side alone, let's say between
Well, take right by St. Stan's.
32nd, yeah, I mean, from 32nd all the way down to basically the Bayfront.
Yeah, think about
Stayed
it.
over,
Like St. Stan's where they got fish night or church.
yeah,
I mean, you're trapped.
oh, yeah.
Go ahead, caller.
That wasn't me.
Oh, it wasn't?
I think the idea would not fly in this town because the law enforcement in this town is lax.
Well, if you were charging, see, John's point is, if you were paying a fee for a license,
Well,
And-
that is
then nobody would pay that license fee if it wasn't being enforced.
And that's where the extra overhead for
I
staff.
mean,
and
here's what we do,
different
here's
things
what we could do, John.
well, there are areas
I turn it over to the parking authority because they'll do it the right way.
taxes that have that privilege too.
Pardon?
I'm paying the taxes that have that privilege.
Yeah, but a lot of people, when you're parking 4 or 5 houses halfway down the block around the corner in some areas,
Well, we have that problem up here in the residential areas where we have people who have their own businesses parking their vehicles out in the street overnight, a couple of days over the weekend, and the parking authority says as long as they move them within 24 hours, they can do that.
Yeah, but see, if you did what they do down at St. Vincent's, where they got the permitting system,
Yes.
you familiar with that one?
I'm familiar with St. Vincent's. I'm familiar with the old Russian American Club. They have permits down through there for neighborhoods.
Yeah, go down and park your car down there and see how long you're there.
Well, that's true there, but you go over 3rd Street, you go over 2nd Street, you go where John was talking about Hammond employees. That is nothing. Who gets there first? Bang.
well, that not anymore, they've changed it, a lot of areas, it's just residential parking.
Yeah, like the employees from St. Vincent can't park in that neighborhood permit area.
True.
You get, but it also means that if you have visitors, they can't park there.
I'm talking about St. Vincent.
Huh?
I'm talking about Hammond.
Yeah, I don't know how it works at,
3rd Street is nothing but Hammond employees.
yeah, but they don't have permitted parking, right?
Yes, they have it down by the Russian or down by the club.
Do the Hammond employees got permits?
No, the homeowners have them.
Only the residents and the people that live in that neighborhood.
Then you're saying they don't enforce it?
They don't enforce it. Hammond employees are parking down through there. What, go down by across the way where Hammond is renting a parking lot. Are they giving revenue to the city for that parking space?
I believe they are. I can find out, that's easy.
Well, what about the gentleman that has his boating
Which
down
one?
there at Dobbins Landing, so it's called now? He has a spot there.
Which one do you want to know about? Which parking lot?
Which parking lot?
Yeah, I'll find out from Miss LaFavor.
Oh, there are a bunch of them all over. Down there by,
We do collect, I get a regular report, John.
by the old smokestack.
Yeah, I get a report on anybody that rents parking out for profit.
Next to the Maritime Museum.
Yeah, if they rent them out for profit, we get a cut of that.
So,
Yeah, not a cut, but we have a,
I do know the Hammond employees or UP&C employees now are going to have to start renting their space. Same thing with Vincent. But go up on Poplar Street, that one side is nothing but...
But that's not permitted, see, that's the problem.
but that's 2-hour limited.
See, where I used to live on 22nd Street, if you had a funeral going on one night and a ball game, and a lot of the places didn't have driveways, you were out of luck.
Yeah.
You had no chance to park.
friend of mine was parked down in Washington DC, and the meter ran out, and I guess at 5 o'clock you have to be, he had a $100 parking ticket. Can you imagine coming back to your car and finding $100? I get mad with the $10 ticket.
Well, even in Pittsburgh, they got places where the meters only run till, like you said, 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
And 5 o'clock, that becomes a lane.
yeah, because
And if you're not there, the tow truck pulls you out of the lane.
Now, the people complain about traffic here. Go to these big cities sometimes, Washington or Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, and start dealing with their parking. There was parking spots in Boston with over 6 figures people were paying for their house. 6 figures.
A friend of mine has about 5 apartment units down there in Boston. But in Pittsburgh, you park in a ramp, and you can get there all night for $25.
I heard, you see, what's the new parking meter? A quarter? Well, it was a quarter for 7.5 minutes. I heard it's now a quarter for 3 minutes in some parts of Pittsburgh.
Yes.
You can
And
use
they
your credit
have,
card
where
there.
They're taking cards now, and you go down to a main place, and you put your card in, and it'll tell you how much you owe, and then you feed it.
Actually, they got some meters now, John, that you don't have to go to the central location.
You just take your
You
card.
can put it right into the meter.
So, well, we will never see that. We're so far behind town.
Well, they're there. The authority just, for whatever reason, decided.
We're about 10 to 15 years behind the rest of the world.
Well, no, actually, our meters,
Not behind installing the new meters where they pulled all the bus.
our meters aren't bad, okay?
No, they're not.
But, they're very, these new meters are nice, but they're very costly too.
This town wouldn't pay $7 a park for a long amount of time, anyways.
People in our community, they don't like to pay for parking, and they don't definitely like paying for parking.
Barry's known wanting to get it free.
Hey, I went to the Cleveland Indians the other night. It ranged from 10 to 25 bucks.
Yep.
And I actually found one that was like 2 blocks away for 10 bucks, which is a bargain.
Right,
Because usually if you're that close, you're paying 25.
right.
When I was working for Whitey Cleaver way in the old days, and you charge like 3 bucks at the Civic Center.
Right.
Boy, they go nuts.
I know.
Even when we're charging $1.
People in our community are very spoiled when it comes to parking. We have no idea the hassle that people in these big cities
Imagine
go
go to a
through.
restaurant like in Chicago,
Oh.
and you got a valet check your car. Because you can't park it anywhere, right?
Right. I mean, they rent spaces out for, you know what I mean? Your car disappears when you go into the restaurant.
But that's why we live in Erie, because you don't expect that to happen.
It's a small town, it's a small community, and, like you said, we want everything for free.
Northeast still has the penny, nickel, and dime parking meters.
Really?
Yep, on their main street.
Wow.
I believe that Corey does too, and Union City. Let's live country. Have a great day.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know.
I think it's a good idea. I just,
Yeah.
I think they'd probably want to do it more in a block-by-block area. But I can see that in somebody, with the growth of colleges,
Right.
hospitals, I think we're going to have to look at deals like that where,
Yeah, some of the streets,
now, the bad part is you can't have any visitors in a lot of these places.
some of these streets are very narrow, Kaz.
Right.
And then when it gets to be odd even parking on top of it, sometimes you're around the corner, and in the wintertime, it becomes an inconvenience, especially,
Everybody today has like 2, 3 cars.
Right.
In every household.
right, so.
And they're not very courteous about it.
No, they're not. It's every man for himself when you pull up, and in the wintertime especially, it would be nice to, when you come home, you have a place that you've shoveled or the plows have plowed, and you
here's-
just pull in front of your house.
I agree, because here's my mother. She has a shared driveway like you do.
Right,
Those things are impractical.
yes,
They're narrow compared to the size of the cars you have.
right,
And then you get somebody like my mother who's, she's not 25 anymore.
right,
And she actually broke her leg trying to move her car.
right,
Because these people are so nervous, they don't want to get a ticket.
right,
And that's the bad part.
right.
Because the seniors and the people of our age bracket.
Well, that would have to go
We're
through-
very respectful, want to move our cars.
In order to do something like that, would that have to go through the parking authority?
Had to go through council first to create the
Council?
zone.
Then the parking authority?
Well, then I think the parking authority is the proper vehicle to administer it.
Right.
Because the police don't have the time.
No, you
But the
could,
parking authority will do it.
right.
At one time, we had every section of the city covered with parking authority vehicles.
Right.
But over the years, they found out they didn't need them in certain areas as much.
And if
So
people,
they eliminated them.
and people that would illegally park in somebody's spot, if they had their vehicle towed, that would create more revenue for the city. I mean, granted, nobody wants to tow anybody's car. I mean, that's a last resort,
See, like in my area, you don't need that because everybody has a driveway.
right? But
You-
from
and-
38th, I mean, even 30, I'm talking just the east side alone, and I'm pretty sure the west side is the same, pretty much. From 38th down to the Bayfront. I mean, there's mostly on-street park. There's some with driveways, but a lot of it is on-street parking. If you got 2,000 people at $200, that's $200,000 a year for the parking authority. And then, like I said, you have your staff and your signs and your overhead. And, you know, you could, the city would make a lot of money out of it, or the parking authority, whatever group oversaw the project. But, you know, that would be up to each citizen to decide whether they wanted to pay the $200. I know I
Well, I'm
would.
in favor of zones because, like I said, my neighborhood alone would, what the college kids are doing to save parking is they'll park their cars off campus,
Right.
and then they'll leave them there while they're on vacation or break,
Yeah. I was up on Tuttle.
and you never get them plowed.
I was up on Tuttle the other day, above 38th, and boy, there's a lot of for sale signs on those houses up there. It's alarming how many people they have their houses up for sale up there, and it's a sad situation with what's going on with Mercyhurst College up there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm watching, my wife and I took a little drive, just come back from church the other day, and it was like 5, 6 houses we just counted on one street.
Right,
That's only going from 10 blocks.
right. I mean, and that's a nice area of town to live in. I mean, that's middle class neighborhood, relatively quiet, unless there's a college party going on. Then
And one of the things I learned, some communities have been very proactive, have already taken it to court, and where we're told, well, we can't do it, it's going to be illegal, it's already held up to a challenge in court.
right.
It just takes, I mean, at some point in time, it's going to be too late, and then, you'll have the Animal House type of atmosphere. And if that's what you want, that's what you'll get.
Well, you'd think that they, like we've talked about on other shows, that their security would be able to police that neighborhood. Gannon does it.
They either do not have the desire, or they don't have they would have to petition, but I don't think they have the desire right now to do that.
Well, I mean, what is it going to take for that? I mean, what is it going to? Because what's going to happen is eventually those houses are going to get rented out, and with people renting houses, they're not going to take care of them, and then eventually it's the whole inner city situation is going to move up to that neighborhood.
But depending on what kind of parent you are,
Well, what's going to happen is eventually their students are going to start clashing with some of the people that are renting their houses up, their apartments or their houses up there.
Yeah.
And then once their students start getting assaulted, shot, stabbed, then they might decide, maybe we should extend our security out into the community a little bit more.
think about if you were a parent. Now, depending on what kind of parent you are, and you pull up along 38th Street, it's not bad now, but think if it gets bad.
Right.
What's your opinion going to be?
Yeah.
Now, if you're a parent that don't care, you're saying, all right, this is a place, my son's going to party here. But if you're a decent parent, you're going to say, do I want my daughter going here, my son?
Right. Well, whenever you revitalize one neighborhood, okay, eventually that whole group and that whole element, the people that you are trying to revitalize, I guess you could say, they got to move somewhere, okay? And usually, as it's been right now, they're moving to the east side. Okay, they tore down the area which was the hood, which they've done. I mean, you don't hear about that anymore. The 23rd and German area, you don't really hear about crime there anymore like you used to. That whole element is moved to the east side, further east. And eventually, with Erie Insurance building, continuing what they're doing over there with the progress they're making, whenever you have revitalization of one neighborhood, you're going to have deterioration of another neighborhood. Because those folks, they've got to move somewhere. And eventually, with people selling those houses up on 38th Street, and people start hearing what's going on up there, they're not going to be able to sell them. So what they're going to do is end up renting them. And then when you have renters in there, they have no territoriality of their property. They don't care what's going on up there. And then that's, as time goes by, people will slide up into that neighborhood, and then the next thing you know, you'll have crime and you'll have problems up there.
I think there's a good element of renters. That's the young people that are just married with families. But that's not what you're going to get.
No. A lot of those people are unfortunately moving out of the city.
Voting with their feet, as I say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Hi. I'm just watching like I always do, and I'm not sure what the relevance of this show is.
The relevance?
Yes.
It's whatever you want to make of it.
What are you guys talking about? I mean, why? About parking?
We talk about anything that people bring up, any complaints. If you have a complaint, you're free to bring one up. If not, in the meantime, we talk about different things that are either positive about the city or things that could change or to help certain neighborhoods. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, who's with you right now?
John Steiner, he's a longtime activist in the community, a good friend of mine that he deals with many things, many committees.
I'm the only one that'll come on the show with Kaz.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just gathering that you guys are talking about traffic and parking and kind of stuff.
Well, it came up because over the years we were talking earlier about Erie Insurance investment into the community, and then a couple taxpayers called up about issues which we'll discuss. You can discuss anything you want. It's Taxpayer's Hotline. You want to talk about something good, something bad?
Talking about traffic in Philadelphia and stuff, and I was just confused as to
Well, here's what we tried to say.
what line was about.
A lot of neighborhoods, people can't park in their neighborhood, and that's came up many times during meetings with council and other groups. And John came up with an idea that he had heard about where we do it in the city. We charge people to park in areas, we give them permits, just like they do in other towns. And that's been bandied about for like neighborhoods like mine where you have a lot of college kids moving in and people can't park their own vehicles anymore, or you can't get your street clean. So how do you solve that problem?
Pay to park in their neighborhoods?
Hmm?
Did you say that you wanted people to pay to park in their neighborhoods?
No, we said that some places want to have permits, some neighborhoods. For instance, at St. Vincent's Hospital area, you ever been up there? Around 24th, 25th?
Yes.
They have permits which they pay for, so they have the privilege of nobody else can park there.
I was at a friend's funeral.
Yeah,
I got a ticket because I parked in somebody's neighborhood.
right. Where I used to live, ma'am, on 22nd Street, I had no driveway.
I was going to church and
Right.
I got a ticket.
Well, the problem is those people,
The street was completely empty. There was no one on it. There was no reason I should have got a ticket. I should have been allowed to park there. No
well,
one else was parked there.
the problem is all those people might be out,
Have like
they might be out to church or...
Well, what happens is a lot of people come to those parking spots.
all I was trying to do is go to the funeral for like, an hour tops.
Yeah, the problem is though, like I lived on 22nd, ma'am.
St. Vincent seems to have it like all like monopolized.
Well, the thing is that in that neighborhood, St. Vincent's has
That neighborhood?
has a moral, they should be providing parking for their own employees.
Oh, I got someone knocking at my door. I got
Okay, feel free to call back, we'll be here.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
that's a perfect example, with the people with the residential parking, they come home and there's people parked in their spots from the hospital for...
Yeah, they might all be, majority might be at work.
Yeah, and...
Even on a Sunday, they might be out of town like we do.
Right.
And they come home and,
Right, and then someone's in front of their house all day long.
the only thing I hear all the time is I only was there for a minute, but the authorities don't know that.
Right.
Go ahead, caller.
Hey, what government agency is responsible for appointing people to the bus authority?
Appointing people?
Yeah.
It depends, well, that depends on which authority, because in some cases, council has the vote.
EMTA, he said.
Oh, EMTA? I think the mayor has at least one pick, and I think the county has a few too.
Okay, the city council doesn't do any appointing, or not sure?
You know what, can you call me at my office right after this meeting?
I think it's mostly through the mayor's.
I will find out from the city. In fact, can you hold on right now?
Sure.
I'll tell you what, I'll announce it. I'm going to let John run the show for a minute, and I'll ask the city clerk, and I'll announce it over the air, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to hang up on you unless you got something more.
Well, I'll just hang up, and if you have the time to put it on the air today.
I will, and if you want to call back, feel free.
Okay, thank you.
John, I'll just be gone for 2 seconds.
You're leaving me.
Yes, we're going to get an answer.
Okay. Well, see, now Kaz, he goes and gets the answer. He doesn't play around. But to talk about what we were talking about, the parking, I know there's residential parking in some spots. Uh-oh. Hope I don't hang up on you. Taxpayers Hotline, go ahead. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
John, you're talking about permit parking,
Yes.
paying a $200 fee or something. I just caught some of it.
Right.
What about these streets that have the on and off, like odd and even parking? Where you pay $200
Oh, see, that's
for half the days in wintertime?
right. That's a good point. And I brought that up to Kaz. We hadn't touched on that. The idea that I just thought of came up to my head, so I figured I'd float it out there. But for when you have the odd and even parking, I guess you would probably have to have it on both sides of the street, and boy, that would be really tough, because I know on some of the east side, like there's Jackson Street and Van Buren Street, which are basically very narrow to begin with. On top, yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, well, a lot of the other streets, like the streets going east and west, have odd and even all winter long. I mean, there's a lot of flats and stuff, and people can't park in the driveways, and in wintertime, you have to crisscross parking.
Right, right. So in the wintertime, it would probably have to be a different setup than it would
Well,
be.
that's what you're talking about in the wintertime.
Right. Well, it would be all year round, but in the wintertime, we'd have to, yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
Well, even in the summertime, they have the spring cleaning where you can only, Tuesdays and Fridays, you have to switch,
Right,
Yeah, something to think about.
right. All right, I appreciate the call.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, hopefully I hung that up right. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, there was definitely be questions as to the suggestion that I made, and, that is definitely a good question. But, on a lot of them, on a lot of the streets, it's just, there's either Tuesday or Friday that you can't park there. And on a lot of the streets, there is they have to post it when they're going to be coming through to do the cleaning on them. But, the odd and even situation in the wintertime would definitely be something that would have to be addressed. Because, I mean, you wouldn't want to pay $200 a year just to park on half the, on one half of the street. That just wouldn't make sense. But unless you had it on both sides of the street, which would, double the overhead probably, so that might be difficult to implement. But on certain streets that you don't have that, you probably could. That's just a suggestion we threw out there. What'd you find out?
Well, thanks to Mr. Jimmy Clem, our illustrious and longtime city clerk,
All right,
the mayor, I think there's like 8 or 9 people on that board,
right,
and 3 of them are appointed by the mayor,
right,
the balance by the county executive.
right,
Because each one is different. There are some boards where council can appoint,
right,
but every board's different. Some are, like the Port Authority, even have the governor
the
appointed.
governor, and yeah.
Yeah, because they're, state thing, and like when I was on the school board, we had the stadium commission, and by the rules we made, 2 of them we had to have at least 1 American Legion, 1 veteran of foreign wars on there.
Right,
And, and then after that, board members made the picks. So everyone's different, but in the case of the EMTA, if that gentleman's listening, the mayor has at least 3, and the county exec has the balance,
right,
which is 5 or 6, I think.
right. I'm sure he's interested in the bus situation.
Oh, yeah, it's,
I had, I
It's
had,
not over. I mean, it may be over in the sense that they've done what they've done, but we will not know, what the effects will be in wintertime.
I have heard that in certain business, they're down 40% as far as revenue goes, since they've moved the buses off State Street. Now, I mean,
If they take
give
the
it
lift,
time.
I think the lift's supported by the government.
Give it time. People in this community, we don't really like change very much.
Well, I think, John, I think when you're going to change, tell me if you agree with this, I think you need to do it properly. You need to involve the public in here. I mean, you can still do what you want to do,
Right.
but at least listen to what, they may change your mind. I've been on many times at public hearings where, some citizen will make a comment, then you check into it and you find out, that's a point that I didn't think about.
Well, that's the thing with, with the different authorities, they don't really have to have public hearings, correct? They choose not to
Well,
when they make major decisions like that?
sometimes you're supposed to have a public hearing on certain issues, sometimes not,
Right. Well,
And
that's
you have
too
to
bad.
check the state law and everything, and
I think if they would have had public hearings regarding the changing of the bus route,
people might even gone along with it. Maybe, but, I don't, but at least the people would have had their voice said.
right?
I mean, I look at it now, French Street's a mess.
Is it?
Yeah, it will be when they have shows going on to Warner.
It's behind the Warner though, but there is an entrance and an exit in the back
Where?
in the Warner.
Yeah, but they block off one lane when they do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they blocked the big semis parked there.
Oh, for the
So now you're taking,
Yeah,
here's what would have been a good idea. Now, they wouldn't have liked this. Until they renovate the Warner, then across the street at the Civic Center, they should have made a cutaway temporarily so they could put their semis in there and then have some kind of officer or some while they're moving equipment back. I know it's not the best way, but geez, when you block that street, now you got buses on there.
right.
It's going to be a mess. And in wintertime, I just think the elderly are going to have, you're going to make it tougher on them.
Well, if you come downtown and get a transfer, you got to walk 2 blocks, correct? Unless
Yeah, for an old person, that can be an issue.
I mean, yeah, unless you get off before 10th Street, right? It goes from 10th to 4th, right?
Yep.
So if you were to get a transfer, you'd have to, unless you wanted to walk the 2 blocks, you'd have to get off on 10th.
Here's my question. Would you have your mother do that?
I'd be very concerned with her walking
That's
2
what
blocks.
I would ask these people who made the decision.
No, I would not.
Why don't you ride the bus and tell me how you like it?
Yeah,
But like you take around Puffer Belly area, when you read the initial report, it kind of hinted that maybe parking meters might have to be removed.
Yeah.
You would kill some of these businesses that don't have parking right now.
right.
I mean, like on the weekend, some people park in Erie Insurance lots at the, Erie Insurance has not really,
Right. They don't,
haven't pressed the issue.
right,
But, you get a couple accidents in there, that could shut them down.
right.
But by and large, I mean, they've been very, you would hurt some of those businesses that if you took away on-street parking.
Right. Well, I mean, they're down 40% as far as revenue goes. I know one business for sure.
You heard that? I mean, the business is down 40%.
Yeah.
I wonder what the buses are running.
Yeah, I know. I don't think that'll become public.
Well, it's got to come public. They have to do that. There's no way they can hold that back.
Right,
They get audited, that's,
right.
in fact, my office can,
Yeah, I was going to say, your office does that, don't they?
if there's any city money involved, my office can go in there and look at the records.
What was the last audit that you guys, are you allowed to say?
Well, they do it, they do one like everybody else. They have to submit it to council.
Oh, right,
So we do get a copy of it. It's done by a bona fide accounting agency.
right,
But in all those contracts, when we lend money to these agencies,
right,
there's a little clause that says the city and/or its agents may go in there at any time and
the county could do it too.
monitor the funds. Sure.
The county could audit that too.
Anybody who has a vested interest.
Right,
So if I choose, I could hire my own accounting firm to go in there, and there might be some debate where I could do the whole thing, but I could definitely work on the part that involves the money we gave them,
right.
making sure that was spent properly.
How much money is allocated to them? Do you know offhand?
You know, I'll bring the budget book next week, because we give money to different sources.
Right. I mean,
Actually, you can access that information on the internet.
it is on the
You know what I'm gonna do? I should bring down, I'll bring down my,
laptop?
from home, I gotta bring my own computer down,
Yeah, then we can actually have that information,
we'll be able to, access it, and,
right? Because I know they do have the budget
yeah.
on the city's website.
We have that, and we have the CAFR, which is the,
I think they've updated the website, the city website.
they've been trying.
Looks better. It looks good.
See, the budget's nice, but that's, what you want to look at is the CAFR, that's the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. I remember every time you hear people, they talk about budget, but a budget is nothing more than a guide on how you raise revenue and how you spend it. What you really want to look at, that's the difference between being an accountant and being a bookkeeper, is there are things you look at that are much more important than a budget. A budget, that's just anticipating what we're going to do and what we're going to spend and living within what we vote on. When we pass a budget, those are the figures we work with, the constraints.
Right.
But if you have money left over, you have funds that have balances, you have the financial health of the city, the indebtedness, all that stuff. And we're doing a lot, John. For a big city and an old city, we're doing good.
Oh, the government, they keep cutting our CBG money.
Yeah.
It's like, pretty soon that'll be all gone.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. When cuts are made above, there's a trickle down effect below. So if you don't take away the mandates, guess who pays for them?
Right.
The local taxpayer.
When I was involved with the advisory board for the weed and seed, when we had that in there, Steph Chapman would run a series of trainings and for the different organizations to help them be more self-sufficient. So whether it's the JFK Center or the MLK and all those, with government money drying up, per se for the CBG money, they were trying to teach people how to go out, write grants, and raise extra money to keep their organizations afloat. I don't know if they've been doing that successfully. I know that...
But even those are somewhat dependent on like government money, like the grants from the casino, so... Yeah, in the long-range plan, you got to have maybe some of your services you have to charge for.
I'll tell you who's an unsung hero around here, who I've been involved with in a lot of the community stuff that I've done, is Dave Dieter. He works for the city.
Dave, he's number one in my book.
Dave doesn't. You never see Dave on television. You never see him anywhere. You don't really see him in the newspaper. But Dave does a lot for this community. And
remember what I used to call Carl? The submarine?
Yeah.
That's David.
Yeah, Dave is involved with a lot of the different organizations. He works for the economic development team up there.
You don't know where David is all the time.
Right.
But he's where it is.
Right.
And he'll get it done, and he'll do it in the right way that, I've watched him work. He's definitely top shelf.
The mayor and Dave Dieter, and they brought in Steph Chapman from, I forget where he's from. He was from out of town. But Steph tried to teach these people, hey, you need to be self-sufficient. He had grant writing workshops for these folks. He knew, we knew the money was being cut. The handouts are going to be stopping. You guys have to be a little more self-sufficient.
Hey, you might have to start. I mean, it's a bad word, but maybe instead of maybe you have to charge $5 for. A perfect example is when my daughter was taking ballet from the King Center.
Mm-hmm.
They had a small fee.
Right.
It wasn't enough, okay? But it was just a little bit to offset it, to help.
Right.
And then you had fundraisers, and
Right.
so that the ballet could raise money, and it kept kids off the street, it kept them busy, it kept the program going. Sometimes you have to do that,
Well, there's, with the poverty situation, these centers and these different community organizations, they have to target their programming to meet what the different funding sources, what their goals are. You need outcome inputs, is what they're called, where you need statistics and you need facts. When somebody comes in for services, you need the information, and you need the information as they leave as to what outcomes you've had on them as they were involved in your program. And a lot of these people, they're not providing the outcome input statistics that they need to continue their funding. So, I mean, that's just...
Yeah, you want to see the result.
You have to have results, because the money is shrinking, and, whether it be block grant money or casino money or community foundation money, United Way money, they have goals and objectives, and they have outcomes that they're working on. We had RJ on the show when you were out of town that one time, and we were talking, the poverty initiative and different things that we were working on. In order to get that funding, these organizations have to tailor their programming to meet those goals. So he just gave us the 1 minute.
1 minute?
You torture that poor guy.
He's unsung guy.
Without that guy, your show does not exist.
That's right. Mike is the key element.
Mike, he can shut us off at any second. He's the key master around here. He's in charge. So we got to be nice to Mike.
He is the key master.
We should have Mike on the show sometime and explain.
Why I tried to get him in a little booth back here with
He won't come on.
the headphones.
We can sit him in Mr. Clem's seat over there and have him.
We'll give him a little board, and
Right. He can hold up some cue cards and tell us when it's time to go and stuff. Well, I have to go upstairs and meet with Mr. Rocco. So he's been looking for me.
He's another good guy.
Yeah. We rented the stage for the Perry 200, and I got to go up there and talk to him about it.
Yeah,
so.
Dave's a one-man show up there.
Dave's on the ball. I mean, he's a good guy, and he's a good friend of mine too. So, yeah.
So now let's see, Dave Dieter and Dave Rocco.
Dave.
They owe you something now, right?
No.
I'm just joking.
I got to be nice to Dave. Dave, I'm coming up to see you.
Dave Rocco?
Yeah.
He's probably listening. You know that?
Oh, he's listening. Yeah. I talked to him earlier today. He's like, "Where you been? You were supposed to come up and see me." I'm like, "Oh no." So I got summons today. So
One thing about Dave, I remember we put up stages in rainstorms.
right.
Dave's out there,
Right.
Still goes down. We get it,
Hey, Dave's the man. I'm telling you.
So I guess we got to go, huh?
I think we're done. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, John.
Hey,
And
maybe next week. Who knows? We'll see what I'm doing.
to that gentleman, I hope we answered his question.
Right. Call Kaz's office. He'll get those answers for you.
And to that other lady, if she'd like to call my office, feel free,
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching the Taxpayers Hotline Show on Erie's own Government Access, Channel 9.